Welcome in Wednesday live chat for this week's BMW Championship. Your questions, your concerns, your comments. The next hour is yours. We'll cover as much as we could possibly get to about this week and maybe anything else that you want. Joe Musso making an appearance. Let the road to the FedEx Cup begin. The Moose is loose in the chat. Oh my goodness. Bang, bang, Niner gang. This time is for you, but it starts with a little bit of time for me, for you, which is on the weather. So I like to get this out of the way beforehand. I am using the Lansing Airport Wind Finder. That is the closest weather station to Olympia Fields. If you don't believe me, well, you should. I don't want to go back through the maps and do all that stuff. It's just east of Olympia Fields. There's one west. I picked the Lansing Airport. Thursday. Look at this. Winds 14 to 15 miles an hour. Gusts 26 to 44. Oh, mama. Also, as the day goes on, you get a little bit of a reprieve. Those sustained winds go down to about 12, 13 miles an hour. Gusts get a little bit lighter. Wind direction changes. That's kind of annoying. Friday looks pretty clean throughout. Maybe some late morning gustier conditions, but compared to Thursday, Friday is pretty consistent. The thing to remember is that there's only 50 players in this field, and they are not going off in traditional waves. Everyone is going off the first tee from, oh boy, let me make sure I get the tee times correct here. From 9:26 a.m. Eastern until 2 p.m. Eastern time. So what is that? 5 hours? About 5.5 hours. Everyone's going off the first tee, not traditional waves. So it will be a little bit harder to time all of this, but I do think that there could be a bit of an edge for guys that tee off like 11, 12, 1 o'clock. They would play most of their rounds in the better conditions on Thursday if this holds. And then Friday looks pretty clean otherwise. So that would be local time. That would be basically here. Seamus Power and on, which includes some notables like Corey Connors, Terrell Hatton, Colin Morikawa, Tony Finau, Tom Kim, Victor Hovland, John Rahm, Scotty Scheffler, Ricky Fowler, etc. I think that's fair. I think that's a pretty fair assessment. Okay, that is your weather report. We can now go back to the regularly scheduled programming, and if anybody has any weather questions, we can go back to the beginning of the show. Additionally, I know there's a lot of one and done questions because we're up against it at the end of the year here. This is probably the last time. Your personal one and done questions don't always help everyone, so I'll just do my best to go through as many of them as possible. And I say that because we start with one here. So Dylan says, obviously limited in options for one and done. Do you like Fitzy, J-Day, Cam Davis, or Wyndham? I think for me, that is a lot of bad options. Probably Cam Davis or Jason Day. I'm not super stoked about either. Robbie says, I am in an earnings pool and elimination. I plan on, for my last two golfers, to be Hovland and Fowler. What order are you taking them? I also have Spieth. You should play Hovland now. So I'll also use these opportunities to kind of point out a couple of interesting things for each one of these golfers. So what do we know about Victor Hovland? We know that he is proving to understand the importance of difficult golf courses and how to play them. This place historically was the fourth most difficult golf course that we had in 2020. I don't think it's going to play that hard this year. They've gotten a lot of rain there, softer conditions. I've heard from the boots on the ground. The fairways are receptive. The greens are receptive. It'll probably get a little faster throughout the week, but it's going to be nothing like 2020. It'll still be hard. It'll still be narrow. It'll still be thick, rough, but it's not going to be that fiery stuff, at least out of the gate. So Victor gets how to win at major championships. He gets when to be aggressive, when to be conservative. He probably should have won last week. His 4 swings off the tee of 18 last week cost him 4 strokes to the field. He missed the playoff by 5 strokes. That was pointed out to me by Kyle Porter. So it's just he's playing great golf right now. I think this is a really good spot for him. Subscribe to the channel. Rick, I noticed approach and putting on this course is top 10 in the correlated stats. More emphasis on that. Are we leading up bombers off the tee? So I assume what is happening here, Jeff, is you are looking at this right here. And this is an old, so we've only played at Olympia Fields once. So I cannot run a regression model with 1 year of data, or else it would just be a complete mirror match of whatever that leaderboard was. So what you're looking at is old. That's TPC Southwind still loaded in. You'll see that I've got this little designation here that says Olympia Fields is not on here. So I'm assuming that's what you're looking at. When I look at this golf course and start, parsing through what you're going to have to do from 30,000 feet, or actually technically from 3,000 feet. That's what my camera's at right now. 3,094 feet. This looks or reminds me so much of Oak Hill. It just so much. I mean, the tree-lined fairways, the narrow nature of the landing zones with the trouble at 300 yards on every single one, the subtle dog legs with inside bunkers that are effectively going to make these landing areas even smaller, and they are going to penalize some of the weaker shots that you hit off the tee. These are all elements that come into play at Oak Hill. That's what I think about, okay? And if we have thick rough and it's going to be harder to hit some of these fairways, I believe raw distance is going to be very important. If you are not going to be super long, you better be super accurate and play out of the fairway every single time. So combination of Oak Hill, combination of winged foot, that's my read on this. And then you probably need a decent around the green game. And I don't really care as much about your putter, but that's just on me. So I think we'll run a model, I'm sure, here in a couple of minutes, but that would be something to look at. What 2 or 3 players in the 6K range provide the most potential upside? Not hearing much talk about Shank, despite the strong finishing on Sunday. Okay, so I can actually just show you this. I don't have to guess. So let's go to the power rankings. Everything you see like data-wise is from my website, RickRunGood.com, giant golf database for fantasy and betting. Just go check it out. Let's go to the strokes gain distribution. It shows you how often golfers are gaining a number of strokes to the field, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And what we'll do is we'll just sort this we'll reverse sort it by salary, right? So guys that are in the 6K range that have a lot of upside. I'll throw the 5K guys in there as well. Patrick Rogers gains 5 or more strokes to the field 8% of the time. Kurt Kitayama does it 6%. Tom Hoagie has not done it in his last 50 rounds. Seamus Powers at 2. So the guys that jump out in terms of upside in these ranges, so those 6 to 8 numbers, Rogers, Kitayama, Lee Hodges, Eric Cole, Harris English, Adam Shank, Brendan Todd, Denny McCarthy, those guys all jump out. The guys that are not good at this upside-wise would be Hoagie, Power, Taylor, Chris Kirk, Adam Svensson. Now, if you want to shorten this up and go more recent, last 24 rounds, you might see a couple of changes. Does anybody Denny gets up to 12%, but his last 12 have been horrid. So you can mess around with this, but hopefully that gives you an idea of the type of golfers that we're looking for in terms of upside. All done this weekend. One and done. Victor, Colin, Finau, or Burns? Victor for me. I think Colin will be fine. I'm not in on Finau, and I will buy back in on Burns, but having Victor is much too good. There's a super chat here, which is very generous and not required, always appreciated. Briley or Briley, appreciate it. Says, thank you, Rick. Thanks for your website. I bet Glover at 75 to 1. Nice. And won $9,400. The likelihood of Hatton comes into the top 5, and glad I didn't bet Sam Burns. Yeah, Sam Burns was not good. First 2 rounds were really bad. It was actually much better after that. Congratulations on Lucas Glover. Much appreciate for the super chat. Never required, but always good to hear the successes. The question is around Terrell Hatton. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to pull up the tournament predictor here. So this is a tool that I don't show enough, but I should. It simulates the tournament 1,000 times. I have Terrell Hatton finishing inside the top 5 20% of the time. It's actually really good. It's one of the higher rates. The way that he sets up for this golf course, despite what was probably a little bit of a disappointing week last week with the T43, I think is still very good, right? He generally gains off the tee. He's good enough around the green. The putter can get hot. This is a nice little profile. played here in 2020, finished T16 and gained basically across the board. So I think Hatton, from my perspective, looks good. The tournament simulator, loved him as well. I think it's a good option that you have. Can you give me your best pivots from, oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm jumping around here because I was messing around. I'll get to that one, but let's do, I try to stay in order so I can make sure I get as many as I can. Hey, Rick, which of these three golfers have the highest finish this week? Spieth, Fowler, Cam Young, Decky, Henley. For me, it is probably Henley, Cam Young, Spieth. It's all very, very close. What I will do is I'll use this opportunity to point out Russell Henley, who has been so good, right? I get the runner-up finish at the Wyndham hurt everybody. I get it. Bounces right back with a T6 at TPC Southwind. My main point, so Ben On falls into this category. Russell Henley falls into this category. A lot of times somebody will be like, well, what does X, Y, and Z have to do to win or to play well this week? And sometimes the answer is, well, they're going to have to hit it better off the tee. They're going to have to be more precise from 100 yards and in than normal. They're going to have to get a hot putter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you're asking them to do 3 or 4 things that are not true to their own DNA. Russell Henley's path to the top of the board at, I almost called it Oak Hill, Olympia Fields is so on brand. It's be very accurate off the tee. He's the most accurate driver on the planet. Be great on approach. He's one of the best second shot players on earth. Be a positive around the green player. Absolutely. He's done that basically in 12 straight events. And then get a hot putting week, which he's capable of doing. He's gained strokes putting in, 6 of 9, something like that, with 9.5 at the Wyndham. He is capable of doing that. You are not asking Russell Henley to do anything extraordinary for his own skill set. So that's why I like that. Spieth, Glover, or Tom Kim, or Sung Jae. I think Glover in a one and done, if you're super desperate, I think is fine. It's kind of another reason why I like burning guys early. Some of these guys always pop up. Glover has now popped up and given himself a decent reason to be used. For you, because you have Tom Kim, because you have Sung Jae left, I mean, you even have Spieth left. I think those are 3 better options. You're second, so I think you should probably take something conceivably safe. I don't think that that's Jordan Spieth. However, Sung Jae would probably check off that box. He's gained over 10 strokes from tee to green in his last 2 starts, 3 top 20s in his last 4. He played here in 2020, finished T56, so that's not great. But I think that based on what you've outlined there, Dan, you're probably a Sung Jae guy. Can you talk about ownership and pivots for this week? Sure. So here's the cheat sheet, RickRunGood.com. There are a couple of guys at the top. Let me see if I can zoom this in a little bit better. A couple guys at the top that are going to eat up a lot of the ownership: Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler, Patrick Cantlay. So your pivots in the 10K range are Spieth is the big one, but Rahm, Hovland, and Xander are all like 14 to 16% projected ownership from like 23% of the big boys. After that, you're seeing Terrell Hatton eat up a lot in the 9K range. He's 17% projected ownership with Max Homa as well. My favorite pivot here, probably, it's Colin, right? It's still Colin. And there's nobody that's super low owned that you'd have to consider. The 8K range, a lot of love for Russell Henley, no surprise. The pivot, I think, is Sam Burns. Let's just have the Sam Burns conversation. I know he burned a lot of us last week. If you look at his round by round stuff, he was miserable for the first 2 rounds. He also, remember, he switched to the Jailbird last week. He only used it for 2 rounds because he was putting so poorly, went back to his original gamer. His ball striking numbers were better. The putter gained on Sunday. Even if you remove his hole-in-one, he still gained 2.5 strokes on approach over the last 2 rounds. That's good stuff. So, and we knew Burns was going to be volatile, right? Like that was kind of part of the whole thing. So I'm happy to kind of pivot and give Sam Burns one more crack at this. The rest of the pivots look like Benny On catching a lot of steam here in the 7s. I wouldn't mind JT Poston. I do worry off the tee for JT, but the results have been really, really good. After that, Eric Cole is about 15% with Lee Hodges. I would not mind Nick Taylor. But that's a lot less confident in there. This is another one and done question. Yeah, that's fine. It's Henley, Glover, Decky, Connors, and he's leaning Henley because he's been used by all the top 10. That's fair. Jordan's results seem to live and die on if it's a solid short game week. Seems like a coin flip for when and how that will come, but 30-1 seems like it's going to be worth it. The place that I would want access to Jordan Spieth is in the outright market. The volatility, the roller coaster in DFS, I'm not interested in. Depending on my position in one and done, I might not be interested in it. But the outright market is more interesting because he's actually capable of just going out and winning golf tournaments, right? Like we see that all the time. I worry about this stat profile, right? Even last week's T6, he chipped in a couple times. There was a lot of magic there. The putter hasn't been as good recently. He's lost strokes on approach in 3 out of 4. And he also drove it very, very accurately last week, which is kind of not normal or always normal. So if he starts spraying it, doesn't get the short game magic, I could see this being a tough spot for Jordan. If I'm going to access him anywhere, it is going to be outright markets. How much would you leave on the table to make yourself different in this tourney? Is 2K enough? Yes. Listen, the vast majority of people are going to use 49,500 or more. I said, what was the optimal last week? 49,800. I have no problem leaving any amount of money on the table. 2K will be by far enough to make you different. This is my newsletter for this week. I send it out every single week. It's 100% free. You should sign up for it. RickRunGood.com/newsletter. Link is in the description. Is there any way to compare the floors and ceilings of Keegan, Fitz, Davis all in one place, or even apply weights if possible? Is that even quantifiable? Well, Landon, you came to the right spot, my friend. So I think there's a couple ways we can do this. So we can just go to the strokes gain distribution for the power rankings. Let's type in Keegan. Let's type in Fitzpatrick, hold control or command on a Mac and be able to select multiple. Cam Davis, let's do last 50 rounds, kind of open this up a little bit. So floor-wise, Matt Fitzpatrick has had the best floor in the last 50 rounds. And I bet you if I go 12, it's got to be way worse than that. Yeah, it's horrible. So you can mess around with whatever time frame is best for you. But 50 rounds, Fitzpatrick's floor is the highest. His ceiling is the lowest. Kind of how that works. Cam Davis would be your middleman. He's got a higher floor than Keegan, but a lower ceiling. And then Keegan's got the lowest floor with the highest ceiling. If you want to actually weigh these, you can do that on the model. So what you could do is you could put strokes gain distribution, and you wanted 70 on floor. So let's do this. Let's put 35 on gaining strokes to the field and 35 on gaining 1 or more. So that's kind of your floor stuff. And then let's put 15 on strokes gained 4+, strokes gained 5+. So that's your ceiling. We look at these, and I know you were looking for specific golfers, but John Rahm's number 1, Rory McIlroy's number 2. You were looking for Keegan, Fitzpatrick, and Cam Davis. Fitzpatrick is 12th. Keegan is 22nd. And Cam Davis is 32nd. There you go. Yes, there is a way to quantify it. That's the way that I would do it. Good luck. I have a $29,000 lead in my one and done. I saved Rahm for this week, hoping to bring home the cup. Thoughts on Rahm? I think you're going to get a pretty good bounce back. So what did he do last week? He hemorrhaged strokes off the tee for the first time in God knows how long. He had the single worst driving round of his career on Thursday or Friday. I can't remember which one it was. He just could not stop driving it into the water, right? It was horrible stuff. He is not going to be able to lose that much here. There's this creek that runs around the Butterfield Creek. It is not in play nearly like water is in play at TPC Southwind, especially on drives. I mean, there's like no water in play on drives. as long as you're not like driving it through this fairway or something like that. But I believe he'll be great this week off the tee, and then that kind of unlocks everything else. So I think we get a little bit of a bounce back here from John Rahm. Hey, Rick, when running a model, considering we have very little course history, could we use previous U.S. Opens as a comp? We could. I think that, again, and I could be to fault for this. The statistics from 2020, I think, were even an outlier of Olympia Fields. I think it's going to be hard, but it was firm. It was fast. It was windy. It was all that stuff. The greens today were quite receptive, right? Fairways were still pretty receptive. It's thick, it's wet, whatever, but I think winning score, instead of 4 under, what if it's 9 or 10 under, 12 under? That would still be hard or medium compared to other PGA Tour events, but I don't think it's going to be, carnage. Jackson says, hey, Rick, thanks for all that you do. On your Monday show, you mentioned the wind direction. That's right. So the prevailing wind is southerly wind. Here you go. Looks like tomorrow is going to be pretty windy, and also looks like the wind direction changes midday. It says advice ? So yeah, you can actually see. So here's that southerly wind that you see, the prevailing wind, and then what's going to happen on Thursday is in the afternoon and the evening, it's going to flip from a westerly into kind of like a northern, northeast wind. So the problem is going to be, I don't know how actionable this is, Jackson. Like, yeah, we know it's going to happen. And it's probably going to suck for the guys that are maybe 1 p.m.-ish, because they're going to get 1.5, maybe 2 directions of wind, as opposed to the guys who are getting the same direction. So they're just going to have to be aware of it. But these guys are pros. And it's hard to say, wow, does Scotty Scheffler adjust better to wind direction changes better than Rory McIlroy? We have no way of knowing that. So I think it's going to be annoying. I think but they're pros. That's kind of how they do it. I don't know how much actionable information there is on that. Tommy's been solid lately. Can we look at his history here and how accurate and long off the tee he is compared to the field? Sure. So here's Tommy Fleetwood. He did not play here in 2020. In fact, he has not played the BMW Championship since Medina in 2019. If you look at how he is off the tee, the thing I worry about with Tommy is that he's a little bit of middle ground. Similar to Royal Liverpool, I think you're going to have to be very long or very accurate. Tommy's medium, right? He's 66th in accuracy. He's 84th in driving distance. He's not elite in either. Now, he gains strokes off the tee week in and week out, but I think that having one elite skill set here, in my opinion, is better than medium. That's my thoughts. The rest of it, I do worry that he gained 5.5 strokes putting last week. That's probably not going to happen again. It's definitely on the upper end of his putting ability. I'm like a 6.5 out of 10 on Tommy Fleetwood. When I actually wrote him up in Golf Digest earlier this week, and I was probably colder on him, maybe like 3.5. I've definitely warmed on Tommy. I have some concerns about the game, but the results are so good. He's been able to get it done at a variety of different courses. So I'm warming, unfortunately. I hear the course is not anything like in 2020. Yep, we've kind of addressed that. I mean, it's the same golf course. It'll just be different conditions. Any ideas on first round leaders? So there was also another question about first round leaders. So the way that I would do this is, go back to the strokes gain distribution, go frequent, recent. Last 24 rounds, guys that gained 4 or 5 strokes to the field. I actually think Keegan Bradley's a pretty good option for this. Keegan, Lucas Glover, Rory, Tommy Fleetwood, Terrell Hatton, Brian Harman. I think those are all decent options. And then what you could also do is you could go to the Holy Grail and just sort by first round and see if anybody else. I mean, we know that Keegan is like way better in round 1 than he is in most other rounds. Do any of these other names start to cross over? Well, where's like Brian Harman? Am I just missing his name? 0.7. Where's Keegan? 0.79. Where's Hatton? 1.28. That might not be bad. I think one of those three. gives you a pretty good chance. With only 50 golfers in the field, is it a good idea to leave more money on the table to have a more unique lineup? Yes, but you never need to leave as much as you think. Like 500 will do the trick. Rick, Ginger or Marianne? So I don't know if you know this Golf Whisperer, but I was a big Gilligan's Island fan growing up. And still, I do watch it. So it comes on here at like 5 a.m. And when I'm getting ready for the gym, sometimes I put it on. We were watching it the other day. The professor went to high school with my grandfather, which is pretty interesting. Definitely a Marianne, for sure. Ginger, no, not for me. Okay. Be the Man 32 wants to run a model. I kind of want to run a model. Let's do it. He says, what would a model look like with off the tee driving accuracy and accuracy as main target areas with a sprinkle of history and putting? Wow. Okay, so I'll show you this because this is your time. It's not mine, but this is heavily weighted on some things that overlap. I'm not sure I would recommend this, but this is your world. I'm just living in it. Let's do... So you want heavily weighted. So let's do 50 in strokes gained off the tee. Distance for 15. Accuracy for 15. So I've got 20 left. So I will sprinkle history with 10. Strokes gained Olympia Fields. If I can do alphabetical order. And putting. Let's just do strokes gained putting. Right? Is that what we want to do? Let's just do strokes gained putting for our final 10. The number one golfer is Patrick Cantlay. Ever heard of him? Has he ever been good at this event? Rory McIlroy, John Rahm, Scotty Scheffler, Tommy Fleetwood, Benny On, Corey Connors, Victor, Hatton, Colin. That's the Big Ten there. Real quick, let me take 5 seconds because there were some questions about some guys further down the board. I'm just going to make a lineup here. I have not... I left one splash entry available to do because I think it allows me to talk about a couple of different things. So this is our contest on Splash. I also have, fingers crossed, an NFL Survivor strategy video coming out tomorrow or Friday. Similar to what we've done for March Madness, I like these one-off math problems where there's kind of game theory and strategy involved, and I think I'm going to enter the Circa one this year. So I have contests for Survivor available. There's a $100 entry. There's a $15 entry. They're winner take all. It'll be fun. Whatever. You can join that. I want to put together a lineup here for the BMW Championship real quick. It's tier style, and I've left one entry available. Let me get this loaded up. Anytime I'm doing my screen record, it always wants to take a second. Okay. So tier one is your big boys. Here I'm going to go. So I've gone Hovland and the others. I think I've gone Rory and the others. I'm going to go a little bit different. Give me John Rahm. Okay. So we're going to go John Rahm there. This is a top heavy payout out of 200 people. So I want to be a little bit different. In tier number 2, if we look at the ownership, Wyndham Clark would probably be pretty low owned. Russell Henley, pretty highly owned. I think Homo will be highly owned. I like him. We're going to go Brian Harman, right? Just mix it up a little bit. He's played well. He can be the accurate guy. I'm going to go back to Sam Burns because I'm a sucker in tier 3. I'm going to go overlook Keegan, overlook Sungjae, overlook Corey Connors. Tier 4. Now we've been pretty against the chalk here, so I think we can eat a little bit of chalk. And while I love Benny On, and there's no value in not taking. All right, we'll take Benny On here. Tier 5. This is Lee Hodges to me. I think that's pretty clear, honestly. And then tier 6, I like Nick Taylor, but I think he's going to be pretty popular. Lucas Glover is a free space here. We're going to go Svensson or we're going to go Shank. I think I used Svensson in another one. We're going to go Shank. That's all it takes. If you want to get involved, links in the description. There's 60 spots left. That'll probably fill pretty quickly here. Which golfers will benefit most from softer conditions? In theory, it will be bombers, right? Because they will drive it far. Nobody will get roll. The other theory would be good second shot players because it'll turn into a TrackMan competition and guys that can hit, 152, the greens are receptive, all that fun stuff. If you find out that they're going to play preferred lies, which they played preferred lies all 4 days last week, which is silliness, then accurate drivers would get a really big boost because they'd be the only ones who get to put their hand on the ball. So that's just a couple of ways you can kind of game out from there. But those would be guys. Aside from the obvious 31 to 50 golfers, and looking at the idea that next week's staggered start, only 3 under is the furthest back who can win, who is capable of jumping up? Do I understand this question? So like, who's capable of making a run at the FedEx Cup from the bottom here? I would say Grillo, because I think he could actually win. And then if you win this, you will be in the driver's seat for next week. Other than that, I mean, there's a lot of guys who are not playing particularly well that I don't particularly trust. I mean, Keegan is not a bad option. I do wonder, like, what is Keegan's number to win the FedEx Cup right now? I don't know what his FedEx Cup standing number is, but that would be pretty interesting. I'm considering Glover in one and done. I'm front running. How much stock do you put with the fact that he's with Rory? Seems intimidating. Only other options are Connors and Finau. I don't care about that at all. I don't think he cares about that at all. What is the betting card for this week? 2 bets. And I will tell you, this is my card. You don't have to bet it, Lindsay or AJ. Sorry. You don't have to take my word for it. Do whatever you want. I bet Rory McIlroy at 8-1. I bet Victor Hovland at 16-1. That's it. 50 guys. I don't need a big card. I've answered a couple of these, so that's good. Let's talk about Ricky. There were a couple questions here about Ricky Fowler, and kind of what the status is. I am cooling a bit, or at least the stat profile is cooling a bit. So he wins, and then what have we seen since then? The approach play hasn't been as good, right? Scottish Open, he was barely a positive. He loses a little bit at the Open, and then he loses kind of big at TPC Southwind. The putter, still good. The driver, it's not bad. It's fine. It's okay. But it's tangibly worse than it was before the win. I think that's fair. Is he hitting a wall? Is he relaxing? Is whatever? I don't know the answer to that, but I think this is reason for a little bit of a concern. Sorry, I was sending a message to Armina about lunch. Okay. 3 best punt plays below 6,500. So I think it's Adam Schenk, I think it's Adam Svensson, and I think it's Nick Taylor. And I'm pretty comfortable with that. Any truth to the rumors that Scotty Scheffler has pinched Lucas Glover's putter? No. Okay. So the question around Glover, and at least my opinion on Glover, is a lot of his how he's going to play this week, I think, is how tired is he? How mentally sound is he? If I remove that stuff and just look at the data and look at the metrics, I think it's a great spot for him. He's going to have to do it the second way. The second way is play out of the fairway. And he's a very accurate driver of the golf ball. 7th in driving accuracy this year. So if he can do that, and there are, I should probably double check this, but look at all these dogleg lefts. Maybe it's not, maybe it's more even than I thought. Well, that's a 5, so that doesn't really, but like it feels like there's so many, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3.5. Like, I don't know. He hits that little baby draw. I think there's only a couple holes that don't shape well for him. And one's a 5, which he can kind of just play as a 3-shotter because it's 600 something yards anyway. So I look at this and again, I'm not asking him to do anything different than he's done in the last 7 weeks or last 7 starts. And it's been really good. So yeah, I think he's going to play well. Question about Tony Finau, and I'm pretty much out on Tony at this point. I need to see something. I need to see more. The putter at TPC Southwind it's not going to be as bad. He lost 8.2. It was the worst putting performance of his career. He's not going to do that again this week, but he might lose 2, 3, or 4, or 5, which is what he's done routinely over the course of the past couple of months. And the driver hasn't been as good. The ball striking hasn't been as consistent. And the only place he has had a ton of success is a place that he always has success, which I don't have any reason to be like, that doesn't count, but it's less impressive. So I worry a lot about Tony this weekend until I see something different. I want to look at Jason Day's profile because there were a couple questions about him. Boy. Oh boy. I mean, this is really troublesome, isn't it? Oh my God. All right. So for those who are just listening, so by the way, there is a podcast version of this show. So those who are just listening, after he won, he missed 3 cuts in a row. He finished 45th. He found a magic runner-up at the Open and then 52nd. He has lost strokes on approach in all but one of those weeks, and he's lost a lot on approach since his win. His history at this golf course, which again was in 2020, which I don't have to care about, lost 3 off the tee and 7.5 on approach. He lost nearly 11 strokes ball striking. That might be the worst ball striking week of his career. It is. This is kind of bizarre. Dude, this is insane. So first off, his 2 worst ball striking starts ever are both at the BMW Championship. His next worst 2 are both at TPC Boston, the Dell Technologies Championship, which used to be a playoff event. His 5th worst is at the BMW Championship, Cog Hill. I've never seen anything like that. Then his 8th worst is at TPC Boston again. Oh, but that was after they switched it to, I think it was technically called the Northern Trust at that time. And Cog Hill again. Dude, I've never seen anything like this where there is one tournament or one course that has given a guy so much trouble. And the playoff events, my God, does he get tired at the end of the year? I've never seen anything like that. Glad we stumbled into it. Now I got to find my spot again. Thoughts on Cole? I remember you saying he's not long or accurate, but still continues to produce. That's basically still the stance. Yeah, he's not long or accurate, but he continues to produce. I don't know if I have anything else to say about it, quite frankly. Is Harris English a good pivot play? I don't think so. The problem that I have with Harris English is how all over the place he's been. The last 2 have been great. Some of the best approach weeks we've gotten from him in a long time. And the only thing he's gotten out of them were a T33 and a T52 because he's capable of losing half of it off the tee, half of it around the green, and another slab of them with the putter. And, some weeks will gain 10 strokes putting. This is just, there's no consistency to this. There is not a built-in floor. There's not a great skill set. There's not one thing away from getting to the top of the leaderboard. He needs to play entirely better across the board to kind of trend. So that's really difficult for me to get to. First place in a one and done with $2,000 on the line. Best available is Homa Harmon. Guessing I know your answer, but what do you think? I think it's got to be Homa. Jock market picks for Hank. So yeah, so the bottom of the board is great for Jock market. So like Grillo, Keegan, Svensson, I'd be like, I'll go do it now. I'll go buy shares of Svensson. The way that he's been playing with, I think it's 4 straight gaining strokes on approach, looks a lot like the fall when he got that victory. So I will put a bid in right now. Let's put my money where my mouth is on Adam Svensson. This is stock market DFS. You bid on shares of golfers, and then when the market closes tonight, it will allocate those shares, and everybody has a finishing position. So I'll take Svensson at $4.25 per share. That's 23rd or better. I'll put a bid in for 15 shares. We'll see if I get these later. And then there's live trading and stuff like that. You can short guys. It's a whole market. It's actually quite fascinating. So let me see if there's anybody else I want to get. Nick Taylor. We'll get a bid in here on Nick Taylor, 15 shares of him. See if we get those. You see other bids are coming in. bids on Russell Henley and Benny on. So those are guys that I would check out. If you want to get involved, you should. Promo code is Rick. That'll give you a $100 deposit bonus. I think it's the best one available. Links in the description. Please run a condensed model that focuses 20% on these 5 in the last 16 rounds. Okay. Total driving. Oh, let me clear this out, actually. Okay. So 16 rounds. Let me get you out of the way here. Total driving. So 20% on each. Total driving. Strokes gained approach. Opportunities gained, which is here. Strokes gained around the green. And bogey avoidance. This is for Garrett. Garrett's number 1 golfer is Scotty Scheffler. His number 2 is Patrick Cantlay. His number 3 is Lucas Glover. Russell Henley. Rory, Colin, JT Poston is 7th for you, Garrett. Victor at 8, Siwoo at 9, Homa at 10. Look at 11 and 12. Brendan Todd, Benny on. Good luck. I was just talking with this. Maybe I mentioned it to Kyle on the first cut. Has anyone ever tried an NFL style eliminator pool for golf? Every week you have to pick a golfer or 2. And if they miss the cut, you're done. If they make the cut, you move on. Yeah. Wait, sorry. So yes, my brain malfunctioned. That exists, Andy. I've played in one of those. It's pretty fun. It's pretty good. I like it. I don't think you can do it for the whole fall, but starting in January, that's pretty good. The one that I mentioned to Kyle was a one and done, but if you miss the cut, you're out. So a little bit of not just you move on, but also a money aspect inside. But I'd be up for either one of those if somebody wants to set it up. If they can get it on Splash, I'll just run it there. But because it's so much easier to have everything in one spot. But we'll see. Adam Hadwin. What's Adam Hadwin been up to? T16 last week, but he needed 6.5 strokes gained putting to do it. 3 cuts before that. Yeah, this is kind of the problem. Unless he gains 5+ strokes with the putter, you're not really getting much. Canadian Open aside, but everything else is just reliant on a massive putting week, which I hate. 40th here in 2020. What's the winning score? 12? 10? I think it's still going to be hard, but I think they'll make more birdies this time around. This is a personal endorsement by the very famous Joe Musso. It says, you don't know jack about golf if you aren't familiar with Rick Rungood's site. That's an official endorsement. You can't take it back. I'm going to put it on the website. It's going to be attributed to Joe Musso. I'm going to run ads for it. He's right. Thank you, Joe. Hope to see you soon, buddy. 4 guys left for one and done. 4th out of 600. Says not a big deal. It's a big deal. You should play Hovland. It was Hovland, Tom Kim, Glover, Harmon. You should play Hovland. I have 15 players for 5-man rosters and Rainmakers. Do you recommend heavy stack? Scotty, Rahm, Victor, Decky? Yes. That's what I did as well. Then spreading out Glover, Homa, Burns within them. Yes, that's exactly what I did. What's up, Rick? Can we look at the lucky, unlucky chart? Yeah. There is one way, Andrew, that you get to look at this whenever you want. Do you know what that might be? No, I'm just messing with you. Scotty Scheffler, Siwoo Kim, Hideki, due for a little bit of things going in their favor. Guys who are in the hurt locker, Eric Cole, Denny McCarthy, Tom Kim, actually. Yeah, not great. Sam Burns let us down, and he's gonna let us down again, and you know it. I mean, probably. Can you give your best estimate on how the scoring average would look on a windy Thursday versus better weather on Friday? So last year, I think it was Average was 1.8 over par for 4 days, and Thursday and Friday played more difficult. So Thursday and Friday were probably closer to 72. And that was pretty tough. I don't think it's going to be that hard. So I would say Thursday's scoring average is probably closer to 1.4, 1.5, and Fridays will probably be like 1 over par. That's my guess. It's really hard with only 1 year's worth of data, a smaller and better field. I'm not a meteorologist, all that fun stuff. Is there added pressure for Rory this week so he gets a win this year? No, because he won the Scottish Open. Rank these 4. I go Hodges, Svensson, Taylor, Kirk. I don't get the Kirk stuff. Thoughts on Corey Connors? I've used him in a couple of one and dones that I've kind of just been needing to use someone. And then I try to convince myself. I mean, listen, he's super accurate off the tee. He's a great second shot player historically, but he hasn't been doing that as well recently. So I need to see that improvement. But I like that he'll probably play out of the fairway. Awesome season. First and one and done. Thanks in large to you, up by 1.5 million. And with about 8 people inside 4 million, we picked 2. Oh, wow. Okay. So if I were you, it's pretty darn close. I would pick Keegan and Glover, and I'm not super stoked about it, but I think that's your best options. Need to start 2 in my season-long championship, which, by the way, I am playing in like 3 championships where I do not have 6 guys to play. That's a big time failure on my part of the waiver wire and also probably the rules. You need to play 2 of Harmon, Rose, Glover, Grillo. I would play Grillo, Glover. Would you classify me as insane if I took on in the last week of one and done to gain ground and try to finish in the money? No. I think I might have mentioned him just kind of alongside Emiliano Grillo. The ask of Ben on is the same ask every week and what he does most of the time. Be great off the tee, Ben, which he is. 3 or more strokes gained off the tee. Get a hot week with the approach game, which he's done. Half of his last 4 rounds. His last 4 rounds are +3, -4, +5, -5. He's a positive around the green player. He's a positive putter. So I think the example I said, I might have said it on Monday. I might have said it Tuesday. And I don't know. If you randomly generated, like I get one of the last 10 starts, one of the last 10 stat profiles from Ben on, I don't know which one, but I get one of them, I'd be like all in. Because if I get a good one, if I get one of the 3 or 4 good ones, I think he can contend. How much do you factor in course history? Not much. There's only 1 year. It was 3 years ago. It's going to play different this year. It's a smaller field, right? No, wait. 70, 50. Yeah, because it used to be 70. We used to go 70, 30. So it's not that big a deal. There's a lot of questions about first round leader. I've answered that. Most underrated place to eat on the Vegas Strip. There's a lot of highly rated places. Underrated place on the Strip would be there's a place at the Wynn that I cannot remember the name of. La Cave. It's like tapas, if you're into that. That's pretty good. I like that a lot. That's a good social place. If you consider the Arts District on the Strip, which I don't think you should, Good Pie has the best pizza in Vegas, in my opinion. Did you run a tournament predictor this week? Yep. It looks like this. Oh, wait, I think I already had it up. Scotty Scheffler won it 6.5% of the time. Cantlay won it 6.2. Rahm 5.2. Roy 5.2. Terrell Hatton won it a lot compared to his odds. So yeah, you can check that out. Fill in the blank. The top X is safe and has clinched their trip to the Tour Championship. Like at least 20, right? You don't get a lot, or you don't get a lot of flip-flopping, do you? Last week, only one guy from the outside got in, which was Glover. I think if you're in the top 20, you're pretty safe. I could be wrong, though. Who is MGM's top liability this week? That's a great callback. So I actually do know the answer to that. It is Cameron Young, number 1, Patrick Cantlay, number 2, Rory McIlroy, number 3. But Cam Young is not even in the top 3 of most tickets or most handle. So there's probably a couple of big bets on Cam Young. Most tickets is Rory. Biggest handle is Cantlay by a hair. That's funny, though. I appreciate that. I'm actually at the end of the comments. Let me go back. Was there a couple of good ones? I mean, I guess 50 guys in the field. How much? I don't want to answer a lot of like the personal one and done. You guys get the point, right? And all that stuff. All right. Well, listen. Here's what I'll do. I'm going to give you like 60 seconds. Anything you want. I don't care what it's about. Put it in the chat. While I wait for those to come in, we'll rapid fire through whatever. While I wait for those to come in, I did send out my newsletter. My weekly newsletter is free. Okay. 100% free. It's got last week's optimal lineup. It's got little nuggets. It's got information that you want to keep handy. All that fun stuff. RickRunGood.com/newsletter. Go sign up. The contests on Splash are fun. And there's ones for the NFL, which will be cool. The other thing is hit subscribe, hit the like button, sign up for RickRunGood.com, all that fun stuff, yada, yada, yada. Okay? Oh, here we go. Now they're coming in. Thoughts on Sahith? Out. Deep dive Cameron Young. He's great off the tee. He's been very volatile. If he has his best stuff, he could be the best player in the field. Top pick on your NFL draft. God, can I name one person? Can I name one person who's in the draft class? Okay, there's got to be a quarterback, but I think he already got drafted. Did CJ Stroud already get drafted? Okay, I think he did. So there's got to be another quarterback. Probably not Arch Manning because he's probably too young, right? He's probably too young. I have to know somebody in the NFL who's going to be in the NFL draft. Quarterbacks. Alabama. God, I have no idea. Do you have a Travis Matthews sponsorship? I would call it a partnership, not in a traditional sense of sponsorship, but they provide me with a ton of awesome stuff. So they've always just been like my favorite. I'm glad that I was able to figure out something with them. And Armina still hates it because I still buy a ton of stuff. They send me boxes of things for free and I still buy it because it's so good. It's so good. Doing a three golfer average for fantasy draft order. So you're just picking, so you're going Cantlay, Scheffler, Schauffele. Schauffele gives me a little bit of concern, but that's fine. Any travel plans or vacation plans after the playoffs? So we historically do something at the end of the year. We'll go to like Southern Utah and we'll stay in the middle of nowhere. It's also like my birthday's in the first week of September, the 7th. So we usually do something then. I don't know what we're going to do this year because we have a bigger trip planned. I'm not quite ready. Should I say it? Maybe I should just say it. No, I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna save it because I don't know yet. But I hope to have a bigger announcement about that. Next tournament you're attending. You know where I would like to go is every time they go to Napa for the Fortinet, we're always like, yo, we should go to Napa and make a thing out of it. And we have not done it yet. And that is a course I haven't seen. I would like to do that. And that's going to be in the next, month or so. So that would be mine. Do bad putters have a better chance on small or large greens? Probably small, right? I mean, large greens increase 3 putts. The BMW Championship at Olympia Fields was in 2020. Why disregard it? I'll just repeat what I said before. I'm not disregarding it, but when I think the question was how much emphasis. When I hear that, it's like compared to other weeks that have constant history. We have weeks on the schedule a lot where they played the same course for 10 or 12 years in a row, if not more. This is a course that was played 3 years ago, which is a long time, in different conditions, and it was played once, right? So just by like sample size logic, we should not be using it as much. JT getting a captain's pick. If I was the captain, I would say no, but I think he'll get one. Oh, fantasy NFL draft? I don't think I'll play fantasy this year. Next tee time and where? Tomorrow morning in Southern California. We are not expecting and will not be having children. What site can you use to do a one and done league with 4 to 5 other guys? Historically, like I've used Office Football Pool, or I know people have used Run Your Pool. You're going to Rome. That would be sick. Are you purposely skipping Chris Kirk questions? I'm just skipping your questions, Clarence. No, I mean, listen, was there any good Chris Kirk questions? Now he's guaranteed to win, right? That's what happens when I besmirch somebody. This doesn't excite me. Miscut. 14th, 21st, miscut, 16th. And he's like a slightly better Harris English where you have no idea which part of his game he's going to play well in. You have no idea which one he's going to lose 3 strokes in. And you have no idea when he's going to play well. So that's basically it. All right. That'll do it. If you guys are going anywhere, if you're going to Napa, if you're going let's figure something out. It's always good to meet up. All right, I think that'll do it. Subscribe to RickRunGood.com. Go sign up for the newsletter. Go hit all the links in the description for everything that you need. It is lunchtime for me. Appreciate you. Goodbye.